fellow limitless, sexy, sassy, saucy HBICs. How you doing on this lovely morning, afternoon, or evening? How are you all? As you can probably tell by my background, that I am not home. I'm at boyfriends, or SBs. But you know what happens when Kim gets in the mood to record? She's going to record. Even if there's people out in the living room who might make noise. So, basic bitch. If you need help figuring out what's going on between you and your manifestation, please feel free to email me at manifestingwithkimberly@gmail.com. All of my coaching options are in the Dropbox below and on the screens that just went by. If you are impatient and do not like being on a wait list, then you're going to want to go for the emergency coaching so you can get in within 24 hours or 72 hours, somewhere within there. You'll be talking to me. And I mean that. If you're impatient, you're going to want the emergency coaching. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? And to all of you who are patiently waiting on the wait list, thank you. I fucking appreciate you more than anything. I really, really mean that. And I'm getting to you. No one gets ignored. I have a channel membership that I go live with my channel members every single Tuesday. I am still waiting for the approval of the second channel membership. That will be Hot Seat Coaching. Come on, YouTube. Come on, YouTube. You're my favorite platform. You know what I'm saying? I go live most Wednesdays, and if I don't, I do make it up somehow, some way. I do. What else? I have TikTok, I have Instagram. I would love if you're new. I would love if you would subscribe and, watch the video and then give it a like. Because it helps it get out. You're hooking a bitch up when you give me a like and subscribe. You are. Not that I'm trying to be one of those beggars who remind you constantly. I know that's annoying. I don't like it either. But it does have an impact. So I appreciate those of you who do. And I know some of you liked the video before you even watched it. And thank you. I do appreciate that very, very much. I can't say that enough. I appreciate all my HBICs. I do. I'm someone who is very humble and very, very aware of without you, there is no me. Okay? I'm aware of that. Manifestation aside, this girl's still humble and will always stay humble. Okay? So let's jump in. What is this video about? Now, we all know I think one of the most popular phrases that's used in this community is circumstances don't matter. And they don't. They really, really don't. But I'm hoping that maybe this will put a little spin in your wheels so that you can chill out if you're facing circumstances in your current 3D, okay? So I had a coaching call with one of my girls, who I love very much, and she had like a breakthrough epiphany in her 3D this past week or two, and she shared it, and she was the one who suggested this would be a good video, and I'm like, yes, girl, you are right. So thank you so much for that. Not sure if she would want me to throw out her name in this video or not. But just in case, I'm gonna not, but she knows who she is, okay? Like I said, she had this epiphany, and she was having some circumstances in her 3D that were connected, obviously, to her manifestation. And she had this moment of realizing that look at the circumstance as a lesson. Now, this is what I want to preface before I continue. I don't want you to think that every time you're manifesting that you're going to be forced to go through lessons, or that bad shit must happen in order for you to get your manifestation. None of that is true. That's not what this video is meant to make you feel like. It's not what you're meant to think. It's not the message. So if that's what you take away, I know for a fact you didn't listen to me. Okay? You didn't listen. And you're already in a shit state, and that's why you're making assumptions like that. Okay? Okay. But when we first discover manifestation, we are all in our own little worlds, our own little states, right? Your state is who you believe you are, okay? Which is all wrapped up with your own beliefs and assumptions. And most of your beliefs and assumptions were pretty much handed to you in your childhood. That's where you learned a lot. Not to say you didn't pick up any along the way, but that's where a large amount was. And some were not so favorable, okay? Especially if they're limiting in any way, shape, or form. But we are all then kind of taught that that we look at our life and we make decisions based on, most of the time, previous experiences, if they have existed, right? Unless it's something new going on. But we're used to looking at our 3D world and basing life from there, or making decisions from there. And that's the total opposite of what we're doing in manifestation. Total opposite, right? And one of the shitty habits that we pick up from our old life, our old conditioning, and that is that, if something we list as unfavorable,
I'm not sure I understand.
Every fucking time. If something we deem as unfavorable, which we'll use, let's say, maybe having an argument with your specific person, maybe a breakup with your specific person, maybe a really large bill coming in and you're in the midst of a money manifestation game, or like, you're manifesting new health and you get a shitty health report and you're feeling like shit. We deem all of that as bad circumstances, and we tend to have a reaction to them. And this is not about me telling you not to emotionally react. That's not what I'm going with that either. But I'm sitting on the bed. That's the habit that most all of us have when we first find manifestation. We're all in the habit of, seeing circumstances and labeling them bad or good. And, I was guilty of that too. And we can use, the past solo vacation that I refer to all the time in my videos. I wasn't happy that a breakup occurred in the midst of my manifestation game, or in the manifestation journey I was on. I wasn't happy about that. I definitely reacted to that emotionally, big time. It scared me. It made me question manifestation, if it's real, and blah, 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 blah. But I have shared with you a plethora of times that I do know, looking back at that is when states finally made sense to me. So that's the takeaway. That's the lesson I walked away with from that solo vacation, is pay attention to your state, decide who you are, and go from there. And your 3D world will, reflect what state you're embodying or who you believe you are. And whether you believe in states of consciousness, whether you like states of consciousness, that's all irrelevant, because you're in a state, whether you want to be, whether you care you are, whether any of that, whether you hate talking about states of consciousness because maybe it feels limiting to you.
I'm not sure I understand.
Maybe it sounds limiting to you. Maybe states, because you don't understand them, you just don't like them. That's fine, but you're still in a state, and that in itself is a state in itself, okay? But that's where I learned that. So if that solo vacation didn't happen, I don't know when I would have discovered or finally understood states, because I had shared, I had already read everything that I could get my hands on Neville Goddard at that point, and still didn't really understand states of consciousness. Embarrassingly, I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. I didn't. And that time frame, that moment, that shit circumstance that popped up in my world led me to rereading yet again. God, I forgot what book it was specifically that I had my moment. Okay. So it was my lesson. Now listen, I have to say it again, because I know there's going to be one of you who panics and thinks, I have to learn a lesson. A bad circumstance must happen that I got to learn a lesson with before I can have my manifestation. Not necessarily. Chill out, motherfucker. Chill out. Chill. Just listen. So I want you to look at your 3D right now. And if you currently have a really shit circumstance, or you're upset that things haven't manifested yet, let's stop labeling things good or bad and start realizing that every single thing we are experiencing, whether we give it the label good or bad or not, everything is in some way bringing you to your full manifestation. So my girl that I'm talking about, you know, without giving away her circumstances necessarily, but she had a moment in her 3D, a circumstance popped up that was initially really irritating and upsetting to her. And as she was looking at it, it dawned on her that, well, wait a minute. If this didn't happen, or these other previous circumstances that were connected to her story didn't happen, I wouldn't have learned this. So we often hear of bridge of incidences, bridge of events. And I am in full support that an instant manifestation can happen at any time. That's a quantum jump in my mind, right? It's technically kind of what we're doing anyway with manifestation. We're quantum jumping to the reality where we have our shit, right? But so don't think that, you know, when you hear someone say, well, you know, you're going to be led on a natural, logical bridge of incidents to your manifestation. That doesn't mean a long time. It can be instant. It really can. But still something happened to give you your manifestation, right? So I now look back at that solo vacation as that is what led me to understand states of consciousness, which then led me to start applying states of consciousness to my manifestation game, which then led me to, that's all I do to manifest, because I want shit fast and I want it easy. So that circumstance that I instantly labeled as horrific, terrible, led me to all of that, which then led to manifestations. Do you see what I'm saying? So yes, circumstances don't matter, but we don't have to fear them either, because even if a shitty circumstance shows up in our 3D, if you would take the power away from it, meaning the power of you fearing it, you know, or, you know, even having you're angry that it's there or that it happened, when you just sit and center yourself for a minute, just calm yourself down for 1 minute and take a step away from the circumstance, remove yourself, chill out, and realize, wait a minute, before I have to give this a negative context, I have to label this as horrible. How do I know that this isn't the catalyst moment that leads me to my full manifestation? What if it's just that? Because honestly, nothing has the definition of bad or negative until we give it that label. Everything's neutral until we decide it's good or bad. Everything, every moment, every circumstance, it is us. And before I say just good or bad, I guess we could say like unimportant, neutral too, right? But it is always us as individuals making that decision of whether it's good or bad or neutral. So if you're someone who has a current shitty circumstance, maybe you're manifesting love and your specific person has ended things. I know that's painful. I'm not trying to take that away from you. I don't want you to feel like your feelings aren't valid, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, guess what? You still have the power of the I am within you. You are the God of your reality. And that circumstance that right now you're seeing it from a limited perspective because you're still emotionally connected to it. So it's not your fault, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You're seeing it from a limited perspective. But for all you know, is that exact circumstance is what leads you to some semblance of an inspired action that brings you that full manifestation. And that specific person that you're manifesting, although they just showed up and said something totally the opposite of what you want, this could be the catalyst circumstance that gets them to wake the fuck up and realize they can't live without you. And they come back. Do you see what I'm saying? I know we hear about circumstances not mattering all the damn time. I know that. But see the power that everything in your 3D is an incident that is leading you. Your universe, your subconscious, your God power, your I amness, whatever you call it, whatever makes sense to you. It's not your enemy. Your 3D is not your enemy. Your 3D wants to just give you what you believe you are or who you believe you are. Your 3D wants to give you everything and anything that you think you are worthy and deserving of. So just because something shows up that we don't necessarily like, we don't have to automatically think, well, now that means I can't have my manifestation because this showed up. Not fucking true. That one negative fucking experience, that one negative circumstance could be the one thing that wakes you up to realizing just how much circumstances don't matter. And maybe it changes your mindset. Maybe it opens the doorway to you understanding another thing around manifestation like it did for me. And it changed my life. That solo vacation was fucking upsetting, miserable. I wasn't happy. I was very angry. And I questioned my own belief around the law of assumption and manifestation. But I didn't give up. States began to make more sense to me. And it's led me to fully understanding that that's all I do to manifest is I am aware of who I think I am. And I make that decision every day. And sometimes it's moment by moment, like you often hear me say. But we don't have to fear every circumstance. We also don't have to be perfect to manifest. So I'm not telling you that if you're emotionally reacting and you're labeling circumstances as negative, doesn't mean you're not going to get your manifestation. But maybe this will lighten the load for you just a little bit, just a little. What's the lesson? What is your I amness, your subconscious, your universe, your moonbeam trying to say to you in your circumstance? Doesn't have to mean something's being taken away from you or stopping you from getting manifestation. That's never true. That is never true. That was something I feared, that things would be taken away from me. It's not true. It's not. The 3D is only ever reflecting who you believe you are. It's all it is. And you're in total control of who you believe you are. It really is just a choice. And on that note, circumstances don't fucking matter. No, they fucking don't. Okay? So, thanks again to all of you who are very, very patient, understanding, and very, very caring. I had lots of you reach out to me through email, sending condolences. I really appreciate that. My boyfriend really appreciated that. And yeah, back to regular scheduled programming. So I'll see you tomorrow.